Hello, thank you for joining us and welcome to the augmented and virtual reality session for the Virtual Info Night tonight. My name's Geoffrey Hill. I'm a department coordinator here at the SAE Melbourne campus. I'm also a lecturer in the Diploma of Augmented and Virtual Reality. I also do some lecturing in other places as well, so in the Master of Creative Industries, in the augmented reality, virtual reality, and the photogrammetry subjects, and also sometimes in the game studio as well, so the studios and major projects. So my background is I've got a Master of Creative Industries, I've got a Bachelor of Games Development with a major in Games Programming, and my industry background is really around VR development for research, so its applications in clinical studies, VR for art installations, and a number of augmented reality marketing projects. So if you've got any questions tonight, please pop them into the bottom of the webinar screen there. We'll be taking some questions, and we've got a little bit of time at the end to hopefully have a look at some of those questions and answer those to help you out. So I wanted to have a little bit of a chat tonight about some of the aspects of our program, specifically looking at some of the hardware and software aspects, but most importantly, to look at the kind of projects you're going to be creating in a program like the Diploma of Augmented and Virtual Reality. So we're going to be looking at some of the things you're actually creating to actually learn some of these concepts that are going to allow you to design and develop augmented and virtual reality applications. So I wanted to start off with virtual reality and have a look at the hardware side of that, because I get a lot of questions about what kind of VR hardware I should have for the course. Now, what we recommend is hardware like the Oculus Quest, either 1 or 2. Now, the reason being for that is it gives you a lot of flexibility in the kinds of VR applications you make, and it gives you a lot of options for deploying as well. So the nice thing is it's also one of the cheaper headsets as well. I've got one of the Quest ones here with me just at the moment. And this allows you to do both tethered and untethered VR. Now, tethered is when you've got the cable running all the way over to the computer. The computer looks after all the rendering. It creates the image and then sends the image back to the headset itself, where it's displayed on the screens and the lenses. So that gives you a lot of really great high fidelity virtual reality experience. But it also gives you a really rapid way to develop and iterate on your projects. So you can be working on a project, press the play button in the engine, put the headset on, and straight away see what's happening. Now, the other aspect of this particular type of hardware, the Oculus Quest, is it can also work as an untethered headset. So it doesn't actually need the cable. It can work on its own. And so what we've got in this is, as a virtual reality device, we've got a strap, we've got a panel with some displays on it. We've got the lenses to wrap the image around your eyes just nicely. But there's also actually like an Android little computer in here. So it can actually run the whole VR application in there. And that also gives you a lot of flexibility about deploying your virtual reality designed applications. You can take this out, you can use it. You don't need a big PC along with you. So it's a really flexible and really a really great way to build VR applications. As I mentioned, it's also one of the cheaper ones, which is really handy. There's also other types of VR headsets as well, and they're supported in our course as well. So things like the HTC Vive or the Microsoft MR series of headsets, or things like the Valve Index. Those headsets are supported as well. So if you've got one of those, you'll be right as well. So from a project perspective, what are the kind of things that you're going to be making in the virtual reality subject? So you're going to be making 3 projects during that subject. So in the first one, you'll be exploring movement in virtual reality. So, it's kind of one thing when we create a world and we put some interaction in there and we can see it on the screen. But when we put our headset on and we can see it and we see this whole world around us, we want to start exploring it. We want to start moving around that virtual reality space. So movement in virtual reality becomes a really important element, and we need to take a lot of considerations into the design and the development of that. So your first project, you'll actually be exploring the technicalities and the design aspects of movement in virtual reality. We'll be looking at teleportation as well as translation. So actual, moving forward, left and right, and zapping around with the teleportation. These are really important things to experiment with and design. And I've got a little bit of a demo just coming up just shortly to show you the kind of project you'd be building for that. The second project is an interaction and an introduction to the scripting components. So this is where you'll be looking at building up the interactions inside of virtual reality. So, using your controller, how do you pick up objects? How do you hook up those interactions? How do you build the kind of logic that you need to build the experience that you're after? In that second project, you're going to be building all sorts of little interactions, learning how to script them up, how to build the kind of logic you need in order to achieve the goals you're looking for in your application. And then finally, in the third project, you'll be exploring interface exploration. So things like, how do we tell the user that something's happened? How do we tell them that something's going on in VR? When we've got a traditional computer type application, the screen's fixed there and we can control the screen, right? But, in VR, maybe the user's looking over there, but it's actually over there that we've got something going on. So we're going to explore and develop and deploy all sorts of ways of informing the user. And also taking input. How do we, when we've got a couple of these controllers, how do we actually take some input from that user? How do we take in text? What are we going to do with interfaces inside of virtual reality? So in those three projects where you're actually building this functionality, you're going to learn how to design and develop for virtual reality through these projects. Now, I've got a couple of demos here just to show you kind of what these are. So this is the movement in virtual reality project. This is an example project we've got here. So with this one, you can see that we're actually moving through the world. We're creating a space and exploring what movement in those spaces is like. So you create a small enclosed space and you see what translation and teleportation are like in those, and you hook those up and develop them, as well as a wide open space, and you see what the effects of that are and different types of movement. The next project that I talked about, of course, was the interaction VR project. So in this one here, you can see that I'm picking up the Nerf gun and I'm using that. I'm throwing it up in the air, and then, well, as you can see in a second, I don't catch it. Bad at sports in real life, bad at sports in VR. So in this project, you're going to be building little applications, little interactive applications where you're got some interactive elements. And even in this little next section that you'll see here, we've got this little bowling application in VR, and we're counting the number of pins that we hit over when we're using the application there. So you're building out the logic. You're seeing how you build these aspects in VR. So now I wanted to quickly talk a little bit about the augmented reality subject. And in the augmented reality subject, the hardware you'll need is actually really simple. All you need is a computer with a webcam attached. Now, that can be like the webcam on your computer there, just at the top if you've got a laptop. On a desktop, one of the little USB webcams, they're fine as well. In fact, these work really well because you can point them down at the desk, and you'll see that in the demo in a second, actually. That's all you need to start building the applications, prototyping them, doing the projects in the course. Optional, of course, is if you have an Android smartphone. With the Android smartphone, we show you how to deploy to that device, so you can see how you use that, how you interact with it, what you need to do to actually build those applications so that they can be deployed on that type of hardware, because that's a common place for augmented reality applications. From a project perspective in the AR subject, you'll be, again, doing three projects. In the first one, you'll be exploring interactivity in augmented reality applications by creating things like a little soccer mini game with little non-player characters playing the soccer game for you. So you'll be setting up the little interactions that have them running after the ball when the ball appears on the field. You'll have them, interacting with each other and scoring goals. The second project, you'll be building an augmented reality business card for yourself. So you'll be building an interactive augmented reality business card that's got little buttons, and you embed video in it. And when you put your business card down, it pops up and it shows video and interact with. So a very cool little application that you can actually use. And then the third project, you're looking at the industrial applications. So you're looking at where can we use augmented reality in different areas of business and different types of industries. What's been done before, what we could do now, and what we'd be doing in the future. And you'd be designing an application to meet a certain set of requirements and exploring what those might be. So I've got a little demo here of the augmented reality. So this is that first project. So this is the little soccer game, and you'll see that what we're doing there is we're just using one of our little, I've got a little printout here, and you'll see it on the camera in a second, of the AR target. Yep, there it is on my desk. There's even some audio in this one as well. When that target is seen by the camera, which is just pointing down at the desk, you'll see the soccer field comes up and then the little characters that I'm clicking, and then the soccer ball comes up and then the characters are running after it and shooting the ball out for a goal. And there's some little particle effects there as well. So you'll be creating these really fun little interactive applications as you're learning about augmented reality and how to deploy. Now, those are the first two subjects that you're doing in your first trimester. And there's two other subjects that you'll be doing at the same time in that first trimester. The first one is managing software projects, and that's where you'll be learning about all the project management methodologies and processes that you need in order to build software projects like VR and AR applications. There's scholarly perspectives on AR and VR, and that's where we're looking at like some of the history and what's happening now and what's happening in the future of AR and VR. There's so much going on, and VR particularly, and AR as well, has actually got a long, rich, and interesting history, and you're going to be able to explore that and theorize about where things are going in the future and where you need to spend your energy. And then in trimester 2, we've got some subjects where we're looking at mixed reality hardware. So we're looking at the cutting edge of hardware and interfaces, and even things like hand tracking. So we look, and one of the projects is building hand tracking and how to build interfaces with, these digits. Contemporary industrial practices is looking at the industry and your place in it and how you will position yourself and where AR and VR sits within the wider media landscape. And the last one there is computer-mediated reality major project. This is your opportunity to pick one of the AR or VR areas and really explore that in a way that interests you. So build that kind of project that you're really passionate about. Maybe it's a VR art installation or a VR or AR game that you're really interested in making, using some of the skills that you've learned in the first trimester and your other subjects in order to build that project. But I'm just going to jump through, see if there's any questions that have come through. And a quick question was, does this course look at the user interface issues or is it more of a design focus? Well, yes, one of the things that you're doing as a part of the interface design is learning where the issues pop up. So you're learning about the design of those interfaces, where the design works well, but you're looking at those interface issues of where things don't work. You're learning some of those best practices and things to avoid as you go along. Next question was, what programs do you use to create virtual reality environments? So inside of the course, we'll be using the Unity game engine. That's the primary engine that we're using for VR and AR to build the applications. And that the Unity game engine is a game engine which happens, those types of engines work really well for creating VR and AR applications because, they're really used to creating really fast moving, really visually rich types of programs, 60, 90 frames a second, really important for VR because we've got to keep up that performance. So we work with game engines, primarily the Unity one. And then when we're creating the virtual reality environments, we use some of the inbuilt functionality of the primitives to block out the space. We also use a tool called ProBuilder quite a bit. And that allows us to create some custom geometry inside of Unity so we can really create the spaces. And then sometimes we're working with assets like Maya-based assets, or sometimes FBXs or 3D Studio Max, where the models have been created using external application. So using all those, a combination of those tools, we're creating the environments that we're going to be using for our virtual reality. Thank you so much for joining us tonight. I hope this has been informative. I hope I've been able to answer some of your questions, and I hope to see you again soon. Thanks for joining me.